business.
And we talked to the chairwoman of the International Franchise Association about what you need to know if you want to franchise your company. I recently stopped by the International Franchise Expo in New York City, where companies were wooing potential franchisors. Maybe your company has what it takes to be the next Edible Arrangements, but where do you start? Shelly Sun is the International Franchise Association chairperson and the CEO of healthcare staffing company Bright Star Care, which has more than 300 locations nationwide. So she knows what she's talking about. We asked her to give us the nitty-gritty of what you need to do if you want to franchise your business.
I think from a franchisor perspective, I think people need to know that they have a solid business model. Ideally, they've done it once with a company on location and replicated it a second, third time to know it wasn't just luck the first time. And then making sure that it's something that's needed by the consumer on a national scale, that it's not a local or regional fad. And then I think there's skill sets that they might not have that they're going to have to make sure they supplement with their own education and then building out a team.
But what are the mistakes that people make when they, because I know a lot of people who say, I have a great company, I want to franchise it, and don't quite understand, hey, this is going to be hard work.
Yeah, I think there's a few. I think one, most are not properly capitalized. They think it, like building a house, they think it'll be done faster and cost less than it will actually. So I think that's one. The second is I think they really underestimate the skill sets that the franchisees coming in have, and therefore what we need to provide in terms of training. So for example, you know, we had really robust training programs for our franchisees in terms of operations, sales, and clinical, multiple weeks. But we realized most of our franchisees have never looked at a profit and loss statement. They don't have financial skills. So we had to build that in and teach our franchisees that critical component.
So you need to really put money, a lot of money aside for training. That is it.
Absolutely, because that's really our only interaction with our franchisees. I send one or two of my people out to their location to help them refine the model. But in terms of having them have access to my entire team and myself, I get to do that in the training process, and so that's critical.
Do you suggest that you have a company-owned franchise first?
I think it's critical. I mean, that's my own bias, because I don't know how you train for something you haven't done.
Mm-hmm. And is everything, before you franchise, was everything buttoned up?
I think for us, it was very buttoned up. I think was everything written down. I think there's things that, as you do the business for a few years, you might just assume it's known, and so I think you're kind of fine-tuning. I think it's just you're fine-tuning to make sure everything is written down. I think that's critical.
What's the biggest mistake people make in getting franchisees?
I think they're anxious to grow the brand, and so they might not have the standards that they need and will evolve to, hopefully with time. But I think there's multiple different criteria, and I think it gets better as you have more franchisees. They certainly need to have a certain amount of money. They need to have a certain skill set, whether they're going to be in an operations role or a sales role or whatever that's going to look like for them. And then have they led people? So in our organization, once a franchisee gets to a very large scale, they may have direct and indirect employees of 400. Someone who hasn't managed white collar and blue collar labor, when we're utilizing, you know, low wage employees for some of our offerings, that we're going to need franchisees that have that skill set. So that's one. Okay. And then I think as we grow and scale, we've used profiling tools so that we could see who made great franchisees and were happy and who were underperforming franchisees. So suddenly, as you grow, it's great to use data. Thank you so much, Shelly. I really appreciate it. Congratulations on the growth of your company, of this organization. It's been great talking to you. Thank you. My pleasure.